Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Gloria Pope here, and I have the amazing Kimberly. Hey, Kimberly.
Hi, how are you doing?
So let me tell you why I'm so excited about Kimberly today, guys, because she's my first international interview on the Black Girl Everything Mini Expo. She is coming all the way from the UK. So where exactly are you at in the UK?
The easiest thing to say is probably like I live in Manchester. I actually live in between Manchester and Liverpool, but basically it's up north.
So you're up north. This is so cool. I've actually never been. One of my things right before COVID, I was like, okay, I'm going to Europe. I'm going to tour. I'm going to be out there. And then COVID hit and it said, no, you can't go nowhere. How do you like living out there?
Do you know what? It's not bad. I've lived in so I have a southern accent, so I've lived in the south for the majority of the time that I've lived here, and then I came up north for uni and I've stayed. But it's nice. England's quiet. It's a lot different from America. So
okay. You think we're rowdy?
do you know what? I've been going to America since I was a little kid, and we went in. So where did we went? We went in 2019, came back in 2020, just like obviously for the Christmas period. And when I realized was everything is so far away, and I never realized it like when I was a kid. And I used to love going there. Not that I don't, but now I'm like, you basically need a car to get everywhere. Like you guys don't have an offie. Like you don't have you can't just pop to the top of the road to a shop. You have to go places. Like it's so far.
Oh, okay. Unless you're in Manhattan though, because you get on the train, you can get everywhere.
Yeah, basically. Like unless you're in New York where everything's quite close to it. Like whereas in Europe, most things are quite like together.
Okay, so everything's like little section, little towns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got you. That's kind of like where I'm from Mount Vernon. Everything's like you go to 4th Avenue down that whole street, like the whole world is right there that you ever need, like the supermarkets, the shops, everything's like right there. And you go in that one little spot. But otherwise, you go any further in New York or New Jersey, you can't get nowhere in New Jersey. Don't go to New Jersey. We hate traveling because you can't go to the supermarket without driving 5 or 6 miles.
Yeah, and that's what I don't like. Like, whereas in England, like if I can, there's a supermarket literally like right there. I can see another one through my window. There's like 2 petrol stations. Easy, light work.
Yeah, I feel you on that too. Because you want things to be convenient. That's why I like living in Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon is pretty convenient. Definitely can't complain about that. All right. So tell everybody, what is the name of your actual business?
So actually now I've started trading as a limited company. So now my business is called Tomilson Talks Limited. Which it's like official.
Is it really official? That's so cool. So is that recent? That the recent changes happened?
Yeah, so originally I was doing my private practice in the evenings and then working during the day because I was like, I need to balance it out. But now I've got enough clients that I can just work for myself full time. So then I was like, let me switch from in England, it's past you go from being a sole trader to being like a limited company. So now I'm a limited company, got my certificate from the government, like I'm a whole director.
Oh, congratulations. Yay. Look at you. So explain to everybody what you actually do.
So I'm a psychotherapist, and so like what people know about therapy is usually like Sigmund Freud, which is basically when you lay on a couch and tell people your problems. I'm the person you tell your problems to, and yeah, so it's just for me to kind of look after my clients and their mental health as best as I possibly can. I think it's really easy naturally in your day-to-day life to kind of just crack on. Do you get what I mean? Not really give yourself that time to check in with yourself. And I think therapy allows that outlet. And especially when you're in therapy, you kind of there's no barriers. It's like a little protective bubble. And for that hour, you can say what you want. Like if you don't like your mom, if you don't like your child, like you can just spurt that out. And then once you leave the room, like everything has just stayed. But you definitely feel lighter. You definitely feel, or my aim is for my clients to feel heard and understood, and like they can show me all aspects of themselves. Whereas obviously as we go through day-to-day life, like the person that you like your mom knows is going to be different to the person that your partner knows or the person that your friend knows. And I think in therapy you can bring all of that, every single part of yourself.
Okay. I love therapy actually, by the way. Yeah, my life was pretty traumatic when I was younger. And I know that. I know it's influenced me as an adult. So, I was a really challenging adult for the first, 20 to like 30, because I didn't really get it. So I went to therapy, and then life has been much better since then.
Oh, I love that. I love when people have actually gone to therapy, because I think most people see therapy as like you need to be like rocking in a corner, absolutely like just flat out and like not being able to function. And that's just not true. But it can definitely give you like a new perspective on life, because you can look through your life, especially when you look back at life, you're like, oh, that was a bit something, that was a bit chaotic. But you can kind of figure out how you felt like about those specific moments, and like you said, like now you know how it shaped you as a person.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I'm fine. That tapped in. I went for a few years and I tapped back in for a couple of years. Probably tap in a couple of years just to, because life is so challenging, right? And it's so overwhelming being a mom and being a business owner and working and just the world just in general. All those things, people don't realize how much all those experiences actually can affect you in a negative way. And so you have to process that energy and that information. And I find a lot of people just are so scared, especially with our community, to really experience that trauma and work through it and realize you can get over some things, not necessarily get over, but learn how to tolerate and deal with certain aspects of your life.
No, 100%. I think especially it's so important when you said like you're going to tap in and out. Like therapy is sometimes for just like simply for maintenance. You know what I mean? Like, so, and like you said, life is a roller coaster. Like sometimes you're good and then in like a year something can hit you like a bombshell, and it's not that you're back to necessarily a dark place or a bad place, but a therapist can allow you the space to work that through. And 100% with like our community, whereas I think my parents were wondering like why I wanted to be a therapist. and I grew up in a church, and I think it's just a case of like, and like my mom and my dad aren't really speakers, they more so talk at me and I listen. I love them. And just put out there. And I realized how much that's kind of, I guess, stopped my voice. And now that I'm a little bit older, like I think that's probably one of the reasons why I wanted to be a therapist. Like I find it so important that people can speak and be heard.
No, I agree. I think everybody should get therapy, because actually, I'm actually in my office. I run an early childhood program during the day. And one of the biggest aspects of what I do here for 0 to 5 is concerned with children and their mental health. And their parents are like, well, what do they learn? They learn how to write their name. No, I'm actually more concerned about how nice they are to their friends. Like I'm more concerned with these basic aspects, because their mental health and their social emotional skills are far more important. They're going to outweigh their academic skills in 100%. So these kids sometimes need a lot of help, and sometimes our parents need a lot of help. But no, I really love it. I think mental health is so important, and just how we need to focus on ourselves and just taking time to that self-care aspect. So what type of clients do you currently serve? Like, are you serving particular age groups, or type of people clinging to you? Like, what do you usually get?
I think the large body of my clients, I think, are similar age groups to me. So like in their like 20s, I do have clients that are a little bit older, a little bit younger. And typically I would say it's more so anxiety and depression, more so because they come usually as pairs. Like if you find one, you usually find the other. They're like best buds. And just kind of people trying to figure out why they're reacting to something in a certain type of way. Like, why am I upset? Why am I angry? Like, I don't get it. And it's sometimes they don't have the capacity to go back or like by themselves. And I think I always say this, I think the conversation that you have with yourself in your mind is different to the one that you have out loud.
I know that so well.
Does that resonate?
Yeah, it does. It does in so many different ways. I'm just like, is that how you're hearing the world right now? Is that how you're really processing that in your little head? That's not really what's going on, but okay.
No, yeah, 100%.
Even like my own son, he's 16, and it's just like, how you process the world is just not how the world existed, baby boy. I just don't know. So we're gonna go ahead and go back to therapy, so you can go ahead and figure some things out, because I don't know where you're at right now. Don't know.
No, but but like even noticing that is so good, because like literally like we can have a whole conversation with ourselves in our head, and it's weird because if you think about it, the voice in your head actually doesn't really have a voice, so it's not really your voice. Does that make sense? It's just like it's just like a thing. Like it's just a thing. But when you start talking things through, that's when, or at least that's when I find my clients get genuinely upset, because I think one, they're hearing it in their own voice and they're being able to actually process it, and they can hear the emotion and how raw it is and how vulnerable they feel, because they're actually hearing themselves go through something. And I think that's just a massive thing. So I think even with anxiety, depression, trauma, any of that, I think it's just hearing your voice and kind of saying stuff, especially when you're in therapy, because you're being honest with yourself, because you're trying to be honest with me. And that people will be like, oh my God, I haven't spoken about that in years. And I'm like, that's because wherever we're at, like wherever your subconscious we're sitting, like there's things that need to come out. And sometimes like clients will come in and be like, oh, like I don't really have anything to say, like I had a decent week, but I did have this like small hiccup here. And then by the time we explore that hiccup, like there's tears and there's like, oh my God. And it's just like, okay, so this happened, which means that you've now got this behavior to compensate for this, or because you didn't feel like this. And it's just therapy.
No, I love it. I love it. I'm definitely a cheerleader of therapy. That's why I was really excited for, to talk to you about it, because people are just so caught up in that they don't need to talk to somebody. And they get stuck in life, and they get stuck in these moments, and then they miss moments, and then they miss certain moments because they're just stuck. And it's like really taking care of yourself and talking about stuff. Like I still journal on a consistent basis. A lot of times now, if I get overwhelmed, I actually just blog on my website, because it's just a way for me to dump certain energy about certain things. And I talk to people all the time, say, yo, write it down, do something. Don't just sit with these feelings, because there's no point in sitting with them. You don't have nobody to talk to your notebook. Your notebook is your best friend. Nobody else sees it. Like
no, 100%. Another option that I give people is, so I try, my aim is to journal at least once a week, more so because my hands get really tired and my brain goes faster than my hands could ever go. So my option one is use the dictation app on your phone. So like go into Notes, press the microphone icon, and then spew it out, because Siri or Alexa, they'll clock everything. Do you know what I mean? Everything's there, and you can always go back and listen to it. Or option number two, if you don't hate the sound of your own voice, which is rare, but you can go into your voice notes and then again spew it out there. So like if you don't have the time to basically potentially sit down and journal, or if you don't have an actual journal, then you can use those two options, because you still have an outlet. And obviously with notes, you can lock your notes. With like voice notes, you can like export them and put them somewhere else, but at least you can go back and be like, oh, this is how I was feeling on that day, wow. Or like hearing my voice, if I didn't think I was that upset, or I didn't think it was like that deep, but now it must have been something that clearly upset me.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I think that's a great tool. You're going to find me now and be in my car, voice note, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, because I find sometimes, like, even when I get home, like after work, like I'll call for my son to come get the baby out the car, take her out the car, and I'll just sit there for a minute and talk to myself, just like get certain things out. So I don't like bringing outside. Sorry, I'm throwing my office phone. I don't like bringing outside in the house. So I take those moments just to be quiet and say, okay, or something's really bothering me, I'll call a friend to like get the energy off, so I'm able to go in the house and be a successful partner with my family. So I think that's important too. So it's those 5-minute moments. I tell my parents that all the time. Sometimes you had a long day at work. Don't rush here and come get them. Go park around the corner from the school, sit there, stare at the sun, and then come and get them after you've taken that moment to digest what's going on. Don't engage with your children or anybody, honestly, when you're in a zone, you're in a zone about something else, because it can be very detrimental.
No, oh my God, that's so like that. I literally, like you said, even if it's just a simple 5-minute moment, or literally just like you said, sitting in the car and just like speaking, because one, you're able to offload. I think obviously work is a long day. You know what I mean? A lot can happen in your work day, and maybe in that moment you couldn't deal with whatever irritated you, but it's been like, like a little chip on your shoulder for the day. And then so you see your kids, and like, because you're still slightly irritated, but you're still, a little bit aggy, then they're going to get something that they don't necessarily deserve, or somebody's going to get something that they don't necessarily deserve. And then later on, you're like, oh, now I feel awful. So I think, like you said, like literally that 5-minute snippet, just to like go around the corner, just don't go inside. I mean, and just sit with yourself and think, okay, how am I feeling? Like, am I good? Am I exhausted? Am I tired? Am I feeling like lazy? Do I want to cook? Like, are we ordering takeaway? Because what's my tolerance level right now? How much of myself do I have to give? Am I on 100 still? Am I, like, when I spoke to you this morning, you're like, my energies are high. I'm like, okay, cool. In a couple of hours, it's still going to be on 100. Is it going to be on 20? And it's like knowing those little things about yourself is so important, because then you can navigate your life better. And especially when you have children, you're less likely to put that onto them.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. So so since COVID has happened, are you working with your clients in person, or are you doing a lot of virtual work?
Virtual work. And honestly, it's worked a treat. It scared me at first, because I was like, I'm so used to being with my clients like face to face. And it's gonna sound a little bit loopy, but like I can read people's like I know, like you can come into, like if you come into the room, like I know how you're feeling, one, based on like building a relationship with you and just kind of like how you're sitting or stuff like that. But I think if I do video, it's usually fine, because I can still see their non-verbal communication. So I can see if they eye roll, or see if they like flinch or kind of retreat inwards. But it's worked just the same. And it saved a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Oh, because you're not in a particular space. You're pretty much out of your house.
Yeah, I I used to be, but now I work from home, and it's definitely been, it's a blessing in disguise. I think it's allowed me to kind of, one, set up like my workspace so that I can kind of like set up my house so that like when I sit down here, I know that I'm working. When I'm not here, like I can do whatever I want. But I think for some clients, they'll still go out and like walk, or they'll do their sessions in their car, or some people are comfortable being in their home. I think it just depends on, one, sometimes depending on where their issues are lying. So if your issue is a home issue, then you might want to go for a walk and do our session, because, you know, being in that place can be very heavy when you're talking about negative things, or, you know, like you might just as you said, like you don't want to offload in your house, you might want to offload somewhere else, so that when you step back into your house, it's still a safe place, or it's still like a calming place for you.
Okay, that makes complete sense to me. So has your numbers grown due to the pandemic? Because I know the mental health of individuals right now has really been challenged based off of the conditions of the world. Do you find that you're getting more people with, especially with anxiety and depression, that are coming your way because of COVID?
Yeah, I think COVID has been a very unorthodox way for people to have to look at themselves.
Okay.
You know, we go through, as I say, we go through life and we just go, really. It's very rare that you have to sit with yourself, and even after a long day, you're like, oh, I don't have time for me. Like, let me just watch TV, do something mind numbing, and then I'll crack on with my day. So I think in England, we've been in lockdown for a really long time. We came out of one and went back into one. But with that, people have had to be like stuck at home, and then you're then stuck with your head, you know, and your subconscious is basically as old as you are. So things will just start creeping up and cropping up, or people will say something and you're like, I'm having such a weird reaction to that, and I don't even know where that's come from. But now I can't even just like go back to typing or go back to like being on the phones. Like, I'm stuck with that feeling, and I don't like it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where that's come from. I don't like how that feels. Or people are stuck with their families, and they're seeing like their families like behaviors, and it's reminding them of things that they like that they used to do as a child, but because obviously they're adults now, they're like out popping about, they don't really, it's like a brush off situation. So I think whatever we had sitting in our pot that we didn't really need to open, COVID has made that like little chest rattle / just open and just be like, hi, so here's all the things that you've been pushing down. Now that we have so much time, let's discuss. But that can be so overwhelming, and then they have no escape.
Got it. Because they're not going anywhere. There's no work, there's no nothing. No, that makes complete sense to me. Complete sense. So tell me, so if you wanted people to know anything in regards to, well, you or just in general about mental health, what would you want people to know?
I hate talking about myself. I'm going to start with the easier one. I think if I want anyone to know anything about mental health, is that there are so many different kinds, and it's to remember that you as an individual have experienced things in your own way. And even though it doesn't always feel like it's relevant, or if you speak to a friend and they just don't really get it, it doesn't invalidate your experience, and it doesn't invalidate how you're feeling. If you've had a negative reaction to some kind of stimulus, then it's for you to kind of look into that and to see where that comes from. If you feel comfortable doing that, or it's kind of getting to the point where you are comfortable doing that, or speaking to a professional and asking for their opinion, I guess. But not because you're dealing with something and your friend's like, oh, like it's neither here or there, like doesn't mean that however you're feeling should be minor. You know what I mean? Like, if you are crying, if something's really affected you, then that's about you, and that's important to you, and you need to be important to you, and you need to be kind and compassionate with yourself and think, okay, crying doesn't make me weak, and having mental health issues doesn't make me weak. It just means that sometimes I'm going through it, and there's so many things on our plate, especially as we get older. Like, adulting is a joke. Worst thing I've ever, like, why didn't it? Definitely would have gone back. I would go back now. But with that, you know, like, I have bills to pay, and like, even in my own job, like, there are times when I'm like, I'll wake up and I'm like, I don't feel great, and I don't have time to explore it. But later on, I know I'm going to have to, because it will pop up again. So it's about knowing yourself and trusting that actually whatever you're reacting to is important to you, and not letting somebody be dismissive, and you not being dismissive of yourself. Like, you're the person that has to carry this. So put yourself first, because you can only give to everybody when you've got something to give. But when you're exhausted, or you're constantly, you know, running out of like fuel for yourself, then things are just going to get heavier and heavier and heavier. And sometimes when you look at life, you look, oh, you know, I've got a nice job, I've got a nice car, like my kids are happy. Why am I not happy? And it's because something is still something is still not right. And then deciding that you should be happy or forcing yourself to be happy only makes you feel worse. So trust how you're feeling, if nothing. I mean, even if you don't want to go to a therapist, like journal, get a self-help book, potentially read, Google to a certain extent, because Google will make you think you're schizophrenic. So maybe just Google-ish. I mean, like Google-ish, but like I have like free consultations. So I'm like, if anybody, like you don't always have to take on therapy with me, but if you have any questions, like just ping me a message, just ask somebody, because it could be something that's very easily sorted out, or just like it's just like a, you know, like a trigger point that you didn't know you have, or it could be something really large that could affect you horribly when you're older, and then you're going to have to unpack that. So I think if you have the time and if you have the chance, well, give yourself the time and give yourself the chance and the opportunity to look after yourself. If nothing, look after yourself.
I think that's so amazing. I think it's dope. And I wholeheartedly agree with everything you say. So say if people from the United States want to see you, what can they do?
John, I was thinking about this actually, because the only thing is, I'm like, the only way this would work, I was thinking, is like, it would have to be basically morning time for you, because like right now it's afternoon time for me. So anytime I speak to my best friend, like I will call her like, oh, I'll call her whenever. I don't really, I'm very unbothered about time zone. So they can either ping me an email or find me on Instagram. And if I can help, I can help. If you can figure out, you know, like a time difference, because I think it's 5 hours, then I am happy to help literally anybody. Like, even if it's just something like minuscule, I think I'd rather somebody ask me. And if I can help, I'll help. Or if I can think of ways to help, if you can't actually be in session with me, then I will Google the internet. I will ask my supervisors anything. I think just ask. I'm always like, I'm open to hear everything.
Wonderful. So what is your email so people can hear it?
So my email is tomlinsontalks@hotmail.com. So that's, oh God, here we go. You guys don't do phonetics, do you? Do you guys do phonetics?
No, we do.
Okay. Okay, so that's TOMLINSONTALKS@hotmail.com.
Okay, great. And it's the same thing pretty much on Instagram, right? Or is it just
Tomlinson? Yeah, it's just Tomlinson Talks. Yeah, that's it.
Instagram. Okay, perfect. So everybody knows, on my viewers, you're going to be on my website now, as well as throughout my Instagram. And I'll put your information out, because mental health is really important. And I think this is going to be the start of me really pushing the idea of mental health. I'm actually hosting my first retreat, which is a business and wellness retreat at the end of this month. Very excited.
I'm excited, but I'm sad because I can't leave the country.
But guess what?
Like, I'm excited for you. I'm sad for me.
Yeah. Well, next time I do another one, you get all my emails, so you'll definitely know the next one that's coming up. Because I would love for you to come out and speak and just give a perspective, because people need to understand that we are experiencing what we're experiencing here, but the world is experiencing the same thing. And everybody is all in this together. We all have the same emotions. We all have the same types of feelings. We're just different. And we just have different accents.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed this conversation with you today. I would love to have another conversation with you later on. It's probably a month, because that's Mental Health Awareness Month here in this country. And I like to.
You know what? Does it change like from country to country? Because I'd be seeing some stuff and I'm like I'm pretty sure like last year March it was like Black History Month, and I was like, is that in England? Because I'm sure it's supposed to be in February, and I was like, has it changed? Do we have an additional month? I was very confused. So if it's you're aware in this month, then wait.
They do pop all over the place. But I definitely see this conversation happening again later on in time. So we have to do the timing so it works for you. So I'm not having you up at 3 a.m. doing the 7 p.m. conference.
You know what? It's fine. My best friend does it. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about my sleeping patterns. So it's okay. I'm honestly actually awake.
All right, cool. All right. Well, it's Kimberly, been dope speaking with you today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Right, enjoy your day. Thank you for having me. Everyone have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye.